Zach says peace out to Rachel. Johnny, Jason, and Avon refuse to say I do to women they barely dated. Huh? How reasonable can you guys be? It's still season 19 of The Bachelorette. That's right. It's still not over. Ow, ow. I am Liz Donatelli and my co-host is Tiffany Current. You are watching Romance Recap, a weekly talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that reviews and discusses dating reality shows. We are doing a deep dive into Fantasy Suites weeks 9 and 10 and part 1 of the season 19 finale of The Bachelorette, a historic season that follows the romance journeys of Gabby, Wendy, and Rachel Recchia. Hello, Tiffany.
Oh my God, I feel like you described what everyone's feeling, which is this show is taking forever. And like whenever the guys say, I'm just not ready, it's like, yeah, you just met 3 weeks ago. And the girl's like, no, I'm like, no, they just met you 3 weeks ago. And like, everyone's like, I can't believe he won't propose. And this is ridiculous. And I don't know what's happening on the show.
Is it truly 3 weeks? I was trying to figure out how long it's supposed to be.
I don't think it's 3 weeks. It might be like 6 weeks or something like that. But the point is, it's a short amount of time. You just met the person. You were maybe on 7 dates with them. Think about it. They're only on a couple actual real dates with these people. So it's like, let's get started with our overnights. I believe it starts with Gabby and Erich.
It does in Mexico. This is where
in Mexico.
Do they always go to Mexico for these fantasy suites, or is it a different locale each time?
I don't know. I think they picked this one because I think that's where the spinoff is going to be. I think the spinoff is going to be in the same resort. I guess they're going to like saving on airfare. Yeah. Just put them there. Just put them there. Cause then we could just boat them off to the next place. Yeah. But we start with Gabby and Erich. Gabby sees Erich. She jumps into his arms. I'm happy to see you. They go to like a waterfall.
Is this the Leap place where it's like
Lovers this is the Leap? Yeah, like a really tall building, and they kept climbing up the building, and I kept thinking, this is actually dangerous. Like they got up high. They got up high on that thing. I'm like,
they got up high, and the whole scene took rather too long. I didn't know why we kept focusing on them going up and jumping down, and Gabby freaking out. But she felt safe because she was with Erich. So I guess that's the point, is that Erich makes her feel like she can do dangerous things.
Yeah, maybe that's the point. I will say not that much surprising happened in this specific overnight because we knew that they liked each other. Yeah. We knew that she was going to give him the key to stay over, and they stayed over. They had an amazing time because the morning after they're like cooking bacon or whatever together, and they're really happy. And it seemed like it went well.
Yes, it did go well. I'm assuming they did more sex than talking.
I'm assuming that's probably the case too.
That's what I'm thinking. Which to me shows a healthy progression in their togethership. So I really dug that. Their vibe. You're
like, it's acceptable. Sex in this case, it was acceptable. That's the Liz thumbs up to sex.
Yes. Double thumbs up. And then we go to Avon and Rachel, and I am automatically roll my eyes because I love Avon. I think he's adorable. And Rachel, he could do so much better than Rachel. Rachel is just playing everybody.
This was tough because the more I'm with Avon, the more I'm like team Avon. Like, he just seems like a really nice guy. Like, I'm not getting a ton of like emoting of emotion from him, but in general, he seems like very honorable and nice and true to his word. And she kept saying, I'm falling for you. And he's saying, I'm falling for you. Yeah. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I don't know if I believe it, but whatever.
Listen, I keep viewing Avon through the lens of he is a child of divorce. And apparently things weren't always so pleasant when he was a kid between, I guess, being separated, from his parent at particular times. I'm not really sure about that whole situation, but I'm thinking that he has learned to protect his feelings and not be so effusive. So I view it as, okay, he's still playing it cool. I mean, technically this is still the early dating stage in real life. Yeah. But Rachel, I don't know. I feel like she was pouring it on Vic because she kept saying he's the full package. He's the full package. And while I agree, she's also like singing the praises of 2 other suitors, Zach and Tino.
I agree. That did not stop her for taking him on the overnight. They had, assuming, a great evening because they woke up together. He was smiling.
Yeah.
She was smiling. They seemed connected. So,
I think there was sex.
I'm assuming a little bit of dirty happening there. They both were happy with the dirty, a little dirty. But they both seemed happy and it ended well. I think it was next Rachel and Tino, I believe. Is that the next?
It is because the bridge into that segment was Jesse talking to Tino and, where are you at? And Tino is ridiculously desperate to see Rachel. And to me, it felt more like he wants to close the deal so he could be declared the winner.
I don't know if that's the case, but as much as I like Jesse, I'm getting really freaking tired of these interludes. Yeah. Why does he keep going to talk to them? We know what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Like, let's cut out 20 minutes of the show. I like you, Jesse. I don't need to see you asking questions. But Absolutely. Tino is very, I don't know, like almost on edge. Like, I've got to get to her. Got to get it.
Yeah.
Like a little too much, but they see each other. They go on a horse ride, I believe. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, Tino was even like, oh, horses. I was like, oh, yeah, he didn't expect that.
He's like, horses? Can we go on a boat? Like, why am I on a horse?
The other couple got a waterfall, and I got
a waterfall. I got a freaking horse. And I think the only thing of note to me that I can recall is that during their conversation is that Rachel once again brought up, like, I don't think your parents like me. Which is true. They don't like you, Rachel. They do not like you. And they said it to your face.
Yeah, they did. And Tino was trying to allay her concerns. And she said to him, Tino, like, basically the last thing your father said to me is, I'm not going to disown him if he gets engaged. I just can't accept it. And Tino was genuinely shocked. And he's like, okay, but still, I love you, so they'll love you, and it'll be okay.
I will say what was interesting is that later on, I forgot who Tino said it to, is that usually, I think it's to Rachel's dad, but usually Tino and his father usually just talk about sports. So this was kind of a new conversation for him.
Yeah.
So maybe that was like oh, okay, we're having a conversation, and this is what my dad feels about other things outside of like a football. And he was shocked, but
good point.
He was once again like, don't worry, I'll win them over. Look, all I know is that Tino said that I love you and Rachel said I love you back. There was no I'm falling in. I'm starting to feel maybe I do. It was like on point. I love you too. I love you too. I was like, all right.
And then we get to Gabby and Johnny, which I think was the quickest.
That was like a 5-minute interlude. Like, let's just slip in. But you know what? I gotta tell you, well, even though what went down, which is minor, I still really like Johnny. Johnny's just kind of like I would like to hang out with him. Just seems like really cool and chill and just like taking it in stride. But they went on the boat, they went to the beach, and then basically Gabby asked Johnny what he thought about, I think, proposing.
Yeah. And
he more or less said, like, I'm not sure if I can get there in a week. It's like, all right.
Yeah. Now, the thing about Johnny is there was mention of him not being able to commit to past relationships or whatnot. So I feel like he probably wouldn't have committed to engagement even if they had been going out a significant amount of time. So I still feel like it was a good thing for Gabby to say goodbye to Johnny at this point.
I agree. I think with other suitors, as we'll discuss soon, like he was different because he seems like the type, like, I don't want to get engaged in the week, nor do I want to get engaged in the next few years. Right.
Exactly.
Like that's the vibe I get from Johnny's still kind of enjoying life, which is, I think, what Gabby picked up.
Yeah.
And she let him go.
It was amicable. I mean, that's one thing about Gabby. Anytime she's breaking off things with a suitor, she does it very gracefully and she does it reasonably, and she doesn't lose her head like other bachelorettes on the show.
I knew what you're talking about. I know who does it later. I know.
I believe next is Jason and Gabby. If I am looking,
it is. I mean, there was some interlude where Erich says to Gabby, "I'm not sure about you going off and over into other guys." Yada yada yada. They had a fight. Whatever, fine. But the next one, that. Did you have a comment on that? I don't know if there's.
No. The only comment was like I felt like it didn't have to be a thing. I was trying to understand. I guess Gabby was upset because she and Erich in their overnights had discussed in private about his concerns about her possibly becoming physically intimate with other suitors in the fantasy suites. And they had reached, I guess, a reasonable conclusion to that discussion. And then Erich steals her away for a few minutes to meet her on the bridge. And he mentions it again on camera, their discussion, and kind of almost wants to prompt her into maybe declaring her love for him, and there is no other. And she felt pressured, and she didn't appreciate him bringing up the conversation again. So I kind of got it. I kind of didn't, because I do understand his point of view.
Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like, all right, I get it. But at the end of the day, we know they're going to be fine. But next up was Jason and Gabby. And I thought at least the beginning portion of this date was cute. They went, they played tennis. They were having a really
sexy.
Good time.
I'm sorry, he was sexy in his element because he likes tennis. I'm just saying.
Because he's confident, because he was confident about it. He knows tennis. Yes, that is correct. He was confident. I just had to say that. That's my only comment. he was confident, and he was enjoying himself, and I think they went out to the pool and they had fun, and it felt really nice. But then basically they go out to dinner, and that's when he admits that once again that this whole process has been really uncomfortable for him, and he's not sure what's real and what's not real, and he's not sure if he could commit to her, because he doesn't really know her outside of this place, which is a reasonable thing to say.
It's absolutely reasonable. He says, and I quote, "I don't think we truly know each other." And it's like, yeah, Jason, you're right on about that. Now, Gabby is devastated, but she doesn't go into histrionics and start weeping. She's devastated. Although I don't know, maybe she did cry some tears, but they decide she gives him the key to the fantasy suite. He accepts, and they decide to spend that time really talking out all of this. I don't think there was any sex that night. I think
there was no
separated
sex.
into her own room eventually.
There was no sex. We know that because of the next morning, the shots. We saw like a bed that was already made. We saw 2 glasses of wine that were left out. We saw 2 plates of food that were out in the hallway. Nobody touched it. They were in 2 separate locations. And I was like, what happened in this overnight?
Gabby is recounting what happened and their conversation. And she said that she said to him, "Oh, maybe maybe we're just not meant to be." And he's like, "Yeah, definitely." And I guess she felt like he wasn't really making an effort to fight for the relationship or to make any effort. And she says to him in person when they meet the next morning, she said, "I feel like I was the one fighting for this relationship and you just followed my lead." I agree. I think that might have been, the situation. She felt kind of led on, and I could see that. But I also don't think he understood what he was doing I don't even know why he's on the show. Why he?
I think he made a mistake in being on the show, but I think what she also said is that at some point he said to her that he doesn't see them working outside of this show. And I think that was kind of the thing that she took home. Yeah. But I agree, like, he's not the right type of person for this show. He doesn't like being on camera. He doesn't want to express himself on camera. It just wasn't working. And like Gabby's a very, I don't know, on camera person, and that could be her future. I definitely don't see the two of those people working together in that regards. But yeah, they kind of broke up.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, it was amicable. So goodbye to Jason. I am curious to know where he is today. I
was watching the finale. I'm like, where is Jason? He's the one person I like to talk to. I would like to talk to Jason,
Anyway. I'm not surprised though he didn't show up in finale part 1.
That's fair. He's probably like, nah, I'm not gonna.
Second
It's possible. He's probably like, I don't want to be on camera.
Yeah. So now we get to Rachel and Zach.
Rachel and Zach, once again, the date started off in the typical boring fashion of Rachel and Zach, because their relationship is just boring. Let's be honest. No offense, maybe.
Although the producers try to put them in interesting circumstances. They're eating grasshoppers and they're doing fortune telling. They went to fortune tellers.
I think it's because the producers have been trying so hard to push these two together because they seem like the perfect couple, and they just seem really boring together. Like they're two kind of bland people. A bland person needs somebody that's more exciting, which is probably why Rachel could have worked with Tina, but whatever. Yeah. But either way, they have a good date. they do the overnight, which once again, we don't see, but we do see the next morning. And the next morning they're like drinking coffee together. And right away, I'm like, this is weird. Like I felt it. Like I was like, he was giving her a look. She was acting kind of phony. I was like, this is awkward. They definitely did not do the dirty because they would not be acting this way. I was like,
no. It was I thought I missed something. I rewound it because I said, wait a second, did something happen? I was hysterical. They're talking about the coffee and Zach is acting like he's doing a coffee commercial.
It's a good cup of Joe right there.
Do you think it's good?
Yeah.
Really? I think it's getting better.
I love it when you can just taste the beans.
Like you just shoot them up. Huh?
He looks at her with the strangest expression, like,
he
what
gave
are you
her
talking
a look.
about?
He gave her a look like, you're bizarre.
Yeah, he's like, what? Like he was like disgusted and annoyed and confused at the same time.
I remember that look, and that's when I was like, what happened in that overnight? Something happened.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, we see him like off camera, I think, basically talking about he's confused. I always love when they use the word confused.
Yeah.
Basically, it turns out that during their overnight, they had a real conversation about religion and getting married. And then she started really going in on him about, are you ready to get married? Are you ready to get married? And he said suddenly she turned into more of this phony Bachelorette person that he didn't recognize. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, she was questioning because of his age, was he ready? And in reality, like there's barely a year.
There's a year.
Age difference. So when I heard that, I said, oh, she's trying to find reasons to break it off nice with him by saying you're just not ready. But he never wavered. He's like, but you're my future and I love you and I'm ready. And he gave her all of the definitives she wanted. But let's face it, whether it was chemistry or something that we'll never know why, she just didn't want to be with him and was kind of looking for an out. And he said she wasn't being authentic and she was way different when the camera was off. And I totally 1,000% believe him.
It's funny when he said that, I thought Liz is going to be like, yep, this is 100% true. This is 100. And sure enough, because I was watching thinking Liz is going to appreciate this moment.
Oh, I loved it. I ate it up.
I know how you feel about Rachel, but that was really interesting to me because I'm like, man, that's why I wish I could see it. I'm like, what was said and how was she acting? But so I will say we leave there before we get to the rose ceremony. I will say that Gabby goes to see Erich.
Yeah.
One last time to say like you're the last one.
Yeah.
And then she finally admits that she loves him and he admits that he loves her. And then we find out that's who she chose. That's the one. He's the only one.
He's the only one. She said to the camera, he is the love of my life. And that whole scene with her being vulnerable enough to say, I love you. And he loves you. They're kissing. Hey, I'm fell in love with the two of them as a couple.
Yeah. They work. I was happy for both of them. I think it's a good pairing.
Yeah.
But we go from there. We go to Rachel's going to have a rose ceremony with Avon, Tino, and Zach.
Yes.
And suddenly, before she hands it a rose, Zach says, Can we talk a minute? Can we talk? And then Rachel looks surprised. I'm like, Rachel, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? Of course he's going to pull you aside. And he basically pulls her aside, right? And I think he basically says that, it felt weird the other day, and I don't know if we're going to make this work, something along those lines.
He said that, I'm totally kind of rethinking all this because the Rachel that I've been spending time with on the camera is different than the Rachel I spent alone time with last night in the fantasy suites. He said, like, you're mentioning things about, am I ready for commitment? He goes, I didn't really know where that came from. And it seemed like, he was calling into question her authenticity.
And I understand why. I get it.
Yeah, we all get it.
But Zach ends up leaving, and so it's just Avon and Tina left.
And now we've crossed over, I believe, into part one of the finale.
That is correct. We made it.
And this is in front of a
Part
live
one.
studio audience, part one of live studio audience, which I hate because Jesse is given the most ridiculous questions to ask.
I
You
know.
have a fake ass audience who's overly emotive and expressive and makes signs that I'm pretty sure producers make those signs up and then give it to them because it all looks like the same handwriting.
It probably is. Yes, that is true. That is true. I agree with you. I agree, but it was a live finale. And I have to say that during this, I actually felt really bad for Rachel because she seemed very uncomfortable. I know how you feel about her, but she seemed so uncomfortable watching herself back and whatever happened in between with her relationship. It's just like she seemed really uncomfortable by the whole situation. I felt kind of bad for her.
The entire episode, it was painful to watch her, even though I'm not a fan of her. It was painful to watch her because she seemed dead inside.
Yes, she seemed so something happened, which we'll probably find out next episode. And she was just like, I don't want to be here, but I'm obligated.
So off the bat, we learned that, Zach leaves and you see her watching him in the car crying, that he's, really genuinely choked up. He really did see her as the future Mrs. Shawcross. And then Jesse's like, let's bring Zach on out.
Zach, come on out.
And it was a nicey. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. You don't have to be sorry. I'm sorrier. So they ended up just apologizing to each other and making nice over.
I will say their interaction was the exact same interaction I've seen throughout the show, which was very bland to me. Once again, I was like, this is a bland relationship. It was a bland goodbye. We leave Zach.
Yep.
He's a nice guy, but come on. Then we go to Avon. And she's excited. Avon's going to meet her family. And she's like, he's 100% for me. And he really wants me. And she loves that she's wanted. Oh my gosh, Rachel. She loves it. And she's excited by it. And she tells her family, you're going to love him. And I'll turn to him. If I'm feeling like I'm feeling down, I'll turn to Avon and this and etc. And she's excited. And so Avon comes in and I thought he was so freaking sweet.
He was
so sweet. Mm-hmm. He was just being very, very straightforward, answering all their questions to the best of his ability. Very nice guy. Avon, man.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel's parents, Big Tony and I don't know the mom's name, I forgot. But anyway, Marianne. They were super excited to see Rachel so excited. And to be honest, I felt like Rachel was being pretty authentic with her feelings, that she seemed genuinely head over heels for Avon. He seemed to win over both of her parents.
Yeah.
All except her friends, Rachel's friends, who I suspect might have been hired actors for this moment. Her friend, I forget his name, Nate, I think. He's like, oh, so basically, are you ready to commit to engagement now? And Avon was like, well, I definitely see myself with Rachel past the end of the show.
Yes.
Engagement is a very strong possibility, but we need to take some time and see when it's right.
Yeah.
So the friends were like, that's a red flag. And
yes. And they left, but they told Rachel oh, I know that you think he's 100%, but he said he's not sure. And so right away she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh my God, Rachel, just gotta chill out. So that kind of set her on edge.
Oh, yeah.
And her and Avon went to talk separately. And she's just like, well, and he started out very sweet, oh, I love your friends and your family. And I just try to be really honest about my feelings. She's like, speaking of honest.
Yeah. And then they take it to the bench.
Yes.
Take it to the bench.
Let's get to the bench. The bench is all about the benches. Speaking of honest, can you tell me, are you ready to marry me? Because speaking to my friends, they said that you aren't. And I went in there, and I think for me, Rachel was more embarrassed that she went in there and told them that he was 100% for her. And he said, I'm not totally sure. And I think she was more embarrassed that he wasn't, that he was going against what she said. Yeah. And so not playing along, but she thought she knew something and he didn't. So I think that's the case, but
1000%.
Then the fight starts. The argument begins.
The argument, basically, she's saying you haven't been truthful with me. And, I'm telling my friends you're 100% into getting engaged, and now you're saying no. And he's defending himself. He's like, Rachel, you're the one for me. It's just that, I've been thinking about things. I wanted to be 1,000% honest with your family and your friends. And, and realistically, I want a little bit more time. I want to make sure that the engagement is mutually right for both of us. And he gets passionate as he's speaking to her, and she's like, why are you yelling at me? Why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, honey, if you think that's yelling, you have not experienced life.
You've never been yelled at. You've never been yelled at. He was not yelling. He was even using a tone. He was just talking passionately. He wasn't, but either way, that's fine. I accept her for feeling like she was being yelled at. Either way, she said it, and immediately he listened, and he said, and he apologized.
He did.
So whether or not he was not yelling, but he listened, he heard her, that was bothering her. He said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be offensive. I'm just being passionate. Let me keep it calm. So immediately, even when she said it, even though we disagree with the yelling term, he changed his point. He changed for her in that spot, in his point of view, which is why I was like, he kept saying, look, I am at a point in my life where I'm ready to be engaged, and I see us having a future. I just want to have some more time together before I do it. So he kept, and she's just like, you're not ready to get married. He's just like, I'm ready to get engaged. I just need a little bit more time to make sure it's right before we do that commitment. And they just went back and forth about it. And I really felt for him because I could see him getting frustrated, and I was getting frustrated. He's just like, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm still here for you. I'm not trying to end it. I want to move forward. I see us together. I just want time
in the real world for us to be together and then get engaged. Now we go into Gabby. Erich gets to meet Gabby's family.
That's crazy.
So it's her aunt, Grandpa John, Gabby's dad, and I think it's her stepmother. And Grandpa John, when he knew that Erich was the last man standing, he's like, oh, Erich, I remember Erich. He's a blank.
I was like, what did he say?
He says, oh, but I love him anyhow. So I don't know if he called him a dick.
He must have. Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But Grandpa John says he likes Erich, and he and Gabby had some alone time, some one-on-one time chatting. And it was just so beautiful. Grandpa John, he loves Gabby so much, wants to see,
it's very sweet.
Find the love she deserves. And Gabby reveals to her aunt that she's terrified of losing Erich. So it appears that she is maybe holding back certain feelings because she's afraid if she shares what she's really thinking, it'll scare Erich away. And the aunt, I feel like the aunt might have been a hired actor too, like a hired actor therapist. No, because she said all the right things like a therapist. She was perfect in what she said to Gabby about, letting him love all of you and showing, him all of you.
I don't think she was a hired actress. I hope she wasn't. She seems
lovely.
Like a woman. She was lovely. She seems like a woman who's been a part of Gabby's life, because she was the same woman who said that Gabby needs to be shown that she's worth it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the same one. So she, to me, has known Gabby enough to know that Gabby has this thing where she doesn't feel worthy and she needs someone to show it to her. So I think whenever Gabby was breaking down in tears, in her ugly tears once again, she said like these lovely things to her. And I thought, what a great aunt. So nice.
Yeah. Interesting. What I think Gabby's tears are coming from a place of true hurt and
that's heartbreak.
True vulnerability. When Rachel cries,
oh my God.
Listen, when Rachel cries, I feel like it's more like the child frustrated who's not getting what they want.
They are crying for different reasons. Yes. I agree with you.
Okay.
And I think, as we've discussed before in the past, there are two different people where Gabby has been through serious hurt and heartbreak in her life that has stuck with her through her entire life. And I feel like Rachel is the type of person who hasn't had any until last year on the show of The Bachelor.
Yeah.
So I feel like they have two different experiences in life. And for one person to always get what they want, and then suddenly just as an adult to not get it, they're going to react differently than somebody who's had that pain dug in since they were like 10 years old. Like, they hold that. They're a different type of person.
Agreed.
So I do think Gabby generally cries because she's always remembering that past memory.
Yeah.
And Rachel's crying because she's not getting what she wants at that moment.
Yes.
So they're happy. They like Erich. And then we move on to Tino and Rachel. And what's interesting, Rachel goes into this situation and her energy is dropped. She's had like a kick in the gut. And she's just like, Tino's coming.
She's like, yeah, guys. So Tino,
like
his
him.
parents hate me. But I gave him my first impression, Rose, and I've been into him since the beginning. Yeah, I mean, even her mom, Rachel's mom, Marianne, was really, she knew what was up. She's like, yeah,
she felt it.
Rachel is not as excited. You really need to have his family on board, and Rachel obviously doesn't feel like she's won over the family, and that's a big deal. And I just want to say one thing. When Rachel is explaining to the family a little bit about Tino, she mentions he has all these crazy hobbies. Did we learn anything about crazy hobbies?
No, I thought, well, all I know is that later on some point Tino said surfing, but he must have other exotic hobbies that we never learned about.
And the conversation,
hobbies?
I don't know, but Tino, when he initially sits down with the family, it was incredibly awkward because neither he nor Rachel had anything really to say to recommend to anyone that, hey, we have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
It was so they acted like they had just met, which
I think that Rachel was depleted from what happened previously. And she was nervous that he wasn't going to be 100% like Avon.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the parents did like Tino, but
the dad liked
some
him.
Different. Yeah, the dad's like, I like him, and he did mention the fact that my daughter has dreams of going abroad. You work in construction, this is your job, isn't remote. How will that work? So the dad was asking really good questions, and the mom, I thought, asked good questions too. Of do you guys have things in common? Can you tell me about that? And once again, bringing up his parents, if the parents aren't on board, it might make it for a more difficult relationship, which is true.
And Tino assured Marianne 1,000 times, no, I know my parents, they're going to come around. They're going to love her because I love her. He even said straight up to Big Tony, Rachel's dad, I will make her happy forever. I was like, well, that's a bold statement, but he seemed to believe it in the moment.
I actually believed him when he spoke and said that. I think he did believe it in the moment.
Yeah.
But so they overall had a good time. I don't recall anyone asking him if he's 100% ready for marriage. Maybe it was cut, but I'm assuming that he probably is.
I'm sure that, he probably he's never really wavered from that. So I'm sure
he's never wavered. He always says, I'm ready to say it. Mm-hmm. So we leave there, and Rachel decides to go see Avon to have a talk. Yes. She goes to his place to kind of to talk about their feelings. And basically, Avon, man, I freaking love this guy. I think he apologized for handling things poorly. He's like, I'm sorry, I should have spoken to you first. I apologized. I apologize for making you feel bad. That wasn't my intention. Yeah. I do see us outside of this once again. And he's just once again, he said, I just want us to spend more time together. And he's like, I for sure want to leave here with you. I'm falling for you, and etc. And at that moment, she says, it's over. It's over. And says, we're breaking up. Mm-hmm. Can't move forward. And she's crying in tears. And he starts crying in tears. And he's like, this is not what I wanted to happen. He explained to her, this isn't what I wanted to happen. I just wanted time. Yeah.
She was just beyond talking to. There's no reasoning with her, really. And Avon said to the camera when she left that he felt as if he had failed because he had seen in his mind a life with her, and he did not expect to be leaving. And he was being genuine in that moment. I believed
him. And he said that he just wants her to be happy. He's like, I just want her to be happy. And I was like, this is a good catch.
He's an excellent catch. And she even had said that through many episodes. Oh, he's a great catch. He's the full package. She totally threw away that relationship over her ego. I don't even.
All I know is that we were watching her watch herself during this. And I was like, you could just tell she internally was so broken on the inside about watching this. Yeah. And probably knowing in her mind that man, I messed that one up big. Yeah. That one up big, and just seeing it back. And I was like, just watching her watch it is painful.
And then Jesse's like, hey, let's bring out Avon.
Let's bring him out. Avon's here, guys. Yay. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And can I just say, they came out And immediately he said, "You look beautiful."
Yes.
I think he gave her a hug. And even when they sat down, sometimes you see people sit really far apart.
Yeah.
They sat down close to each other still. Like he was like, oh, Haven.
Now he did apologize to her
Again.
profusely, and she's like, "Oh, you don't have to." It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and it's like again they play the "I'm sorry, I'm more sorry."
I actually believed her. I know you didn't believe her, but he apologized again, and she said to him, like, "You really don't have to apologize. I was in a different space." I believed her because I think with Zach, she's probably like, whatever, Zach. But with Avon, I think she's probably like, you don't have to apologize. I was in a weird. That shouldn't have happened. I made a mistake is probably what she's thinking in her mind.
Yeah.
And I actually believed her when she said, like, you don't have to apologize. It's okay.
Yeah, you know what? I felt like she was just so broken over everything. It was like, it doesn't even matter. Like, to me, it seemed like she was saying, don't even worry about apologizing. Like, nothing matters because my life is like, that's how I took it.
I've given up on the world and love.
But I do feel like she was experiencing true regret. And again, he reiterated that I am sorry I didn't get you up to speed with my new revelation, which was, hey, I reevaluated things. I didn't want to get engaged right away. He goes, I wanted to be truthful with your family and friends. And I think it's only her friends that he mentioned that to. It's like, yeah, I want some time. He's like, but I never told you that that's how I was feeling. So that's what he was apologizing for. And in a way, I'm like, you can apologize, but you really don't need to, because she did not behave as someone does when you're in a committed relationship, which is to talk it out. And she didn't want to come to a new understanding. She just wanted to toss him aside. So
I think she overreacted. I think there was for Rachel's point of view, I think there was a lot going on. There's Tino, who she loves.
Yeah.
And I think it's also because she really wants to get married. And I think she got in this mindset of like, I really, really want to get married. And then she's not thinking straight. I think something happened where she's just not thinking straight of, I want to get married. Last year, this is supposed to happen. Something terrible happened last year. Now I need someone who will say, I want to marry you. She needs that validation. And I think because he couldn't do it 100%, she got crazy about it.
You know, you hit upon something that's 1,000,000% correct, is that she's looking for the validation because she is still carrying around the rejection and hurt from the Bachelor with Clayton. So, so I think that's almost why her need to get married seems so ridiculously overdone.
Yeah, need someone to pick me. What I liked how that ended is the fact that it did end. And as Jesse's starting to talk, as they're going to commercial, we see Avon turn to Rachel and say, so how have you been? And I was like, oh, Avon, like it was just very quick. You see him say like, oh, how are you? And you can kind of hear for a second them talking. And I think somebody must have turned off their mic, because then you could hear Jesse like go to commercial. But then as you pull out, you still see them talking to each other. Like Avon seems like a really good catch. Really nice guy.
Do you think there's a chance of maybe them eventually getting together off camera? You know
what? I think it's possible, because if her and Tino do end up breaking up, which is what all the tabloids are saying, I think her watching back what happened with Avon and realizing I made a big mistake. I was too focused on marriage than the guy in front of me. I think, and he seems like he still generally probably has feelings for her, because he said, it's good to see you. And he was acting like he still cared about her when he saw her. Like Zach was more of like, okay, done. But Avon seemed like he still felt for her. So maybe there's a chance for the two of them.
Gabby's final date with Erich. And I don't know why they call it a final date before what they possibly get engaged. And, they're having a moment, lots of kisses, a lot of love. I love you. I love you. I love you more. And then they start talking about a marriage proposal, and Erich is like, I love you. I continue. I want to continue to date you. And then, we'll talk about engagement. And Gabby's like, whoa, 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 whoa. He wants to date her more before getting engaged. He wants to experience life with her outside of this bubble created by the Bachelorette. She feels like there's a setback. She's terrified of losing him and feels like, listen, if we just date, there's a chance of us breaking up. So she sees her world tumbling down. I got it. I understood her. But then on the other hand, I'm like, she's being a little bit unreasonable. But again, she's experienced significant trauma of people leaving her. So for me, I totally could understand where, but I hope she doesn't let that emotion make her decisions for her.
I don't think so. I guess that's what we're going to find out in the next episode.
Yeah, in part 2 of the finale. Yeah, why not? Let's just keep going with this show. There's probably 6 more episodes they have in the can that they're going to throw at us. Who knows?
There's going to be like a surprise. And here's a new suitor for you to potentially choose from. Like, come on, guys. Let's just end this show.
Let's bring out Logan. Because
let's end it. Let's end the show, please.
So that's basically where it is. Of course, there's continued promises by Jesse that the next part is going to be the most emotional thing you've ever seen on reality TV.
I'm tired of hearing that. It's like, Jesse, no, it's not.
Yeah.
This is just a dating show. Yeah. Okay. No one's going to end up in the emergency room.
Yeah. Do you think that Jesse ever hates himself being on the show? He's like, I have to play this role that it's like I'm good at, but sometimes I just feel like an ass.
I think he probably does a little bit. I do wonder about people who are in these roles who realize like, I have to say this is ridiculous, but it's a job and he gets paid probably a lot of money for it. So he's probably like, I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to say these stupid lines, make my millions.
And the stupidest question I think he asked, and I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive he has an earpiece, right? Where the producers will feed him questions. So one of the questions that he asked Rachel and Avon was, do you feel like your friends were like trying to sabotaging you?
And Avon right away was like, no, that's not what happened. Right away, like he was like, let me just like shut this down because that's a stupid question. Avon right away, to Avon's credit, was like, no, that wasn't the case. They were asking me a very basic question, and Rachel was like, yeah, that's just what friends do. Look, Jesse has to say some stupid stuff because like even as they're ending the show, I don't know what he said. He's like, tomorrow, he's like, will Gabby get engaged? Will Rachel get engaged? We're like, we know something bad happens because you can see Rachel's face like this is a terrible thing.
Oh my God.
They both get engaged. I was like, stop saying engaged. She's like, stop it. I was like, I'm like, just go to commercial. Just let her off the stage.
Tiffany, you have been incredible throughout this journey. We have connected and I have gained so much clarity that I could say with certainty that I love you and I'd love to have a relationship with you outside of the show, but I also want to immediately get engaged to you and spend my life forever with you.
I can 100% say that I need time to think about that.